I was born and raised in the interior of Navosa. Some of my earlier memories was running along those freshly plowed fields with my uncles planting watermelons. My mother and my father eventually got married and we moved to my father's village. At the age of 6, my mother packed up the only suitcase we had, preparing me for the long journey, biggest transition of my life. It was time to leave home for boarding school. This was the only way I can get access to education. By horse, it takes my cousin and I 1.5 to 2 hours of steady Talanoa and making stops along the mango trees to reach school. When I first arrived in schools, I just remember looking over to my suitcase. It was as tall as I was. In boarding school, we learned how to take care of each other. When one of us was sick, a child from our village had to stay back to watch over the other. We were responsible to creating our own safety net. Our families visited in cycles for a week to cook for 100 students in our boarding school. This was our family's contribution to the Vanua school. It was never an easy thing for our families, but as I learned earlier on, that education is synonymous to sacrifice when you come from a rural and remote communities. Communities coming together for a greater good was something that came long before me. Around 1965, in the Tikinoyakete in the interior of Mba, where 7 remote communities nestle along Mount Evans Range, community members of the Chiefly clan from Lotawa came together to cut sugarcane that season. In those days, sugarcane used to be planted further up in the mountain, and they were working access road to transport them to the nearest sugar mill. They weren't cutting sugarcane as an individual. They were cutting it to support the education of the second member of their tribe ever to complete secondary school. The man they were laboring for was my father, Lotawa Sr. Today you see me, you see many. I'm the product of what we call in Fijian solasolamaki. It means coming together for a greater good of something beyond just one. The solasolamaki spirit is what underpins our community development framework as Fijian. It fertilizes the soil of total abundance of our traditional custom. What's at stake in the global climate crisis for us as Fijian is not the environment, but it's our total abundance mindset. It's our humans' orientation towards the environment. It's our connection between land, food, identity, traditional knowledge, and innovation to be self-sufficient and resilient. This is the Pacific way. There's no Western framework that can capture this because it's simply not a Western way. My name is Lotawa, and I'm the co-founder of Rise Beyond the Reef, and I've dedicated my life work to the empowerment of rural and remote Fijian. In the global context of the Pacific and the world at large, one thing is for sure, that culture eats strategy and foreign development framework for breakfast. I believe we have to create our own authentic community development framework as Fijian that will have meaningful impacts on the ground, that can sustain our work and can also sustain our organization. My favorite author, Raj Kumar, editors of TEDxSuva, articulates it. It's about switching from good intention in aid to creating good results and being accountable with community for the impact during our time together. In 2014, with $5,000, we started off our economic empowerment and leadership program. We started off by talking to our communities. Through our baseline process, we listened to the women, and they articulated they want to earn their own income separate from their family income. Today, we have over 350 women in our program in over 23 rural and remote communities in Fiji. Our artisans in our traditional contemporary arts program surpassed 500,000 in earnings this year. Through our partnership with our community, we develop a community-centered supply and value chain. A supply chain that starts from the market to product development, to capacity building in the community, to testing the efficiency of moving product back and forth from the community to the customers. In the Pacific, we always talk about the lack of data. We did our baseline study and gather findings on the ground. Oftentimes when we are in roundtables meeting and workshops and try to share our finding, it always met with resistance. Walls being put up to mask the lack of knowledge for what we were trying to say. Walls being put up to mask the lack of experience on the ground. This year, with the help of Fiji Women's Fund, we were able to complete our own independent impact assessment from our community. Many organizations always don't look forward to this, but we were so excited. After years of anecdotal evidence, which is great, but can be of limiting in its use, we were excited that now we can have our own comprehensive data that we can use to lead us to the next step of our work. The impact study highlighted many things, but I want to share two of them. One was the risk of increase in domestic violence when women's earning increase. 95% of the respondents articulate that. In their communities, when women's earning increase, it lessens the burden and the tension that used to lead to domestic violence. The study also highlights the need to engage men, to lead men into the addressing of the high rates of domestic violence in our community. The support, to support men, to lead men, to use culture to change culture. After our impact study, we move on into our tool testing mode. We introduce gender equality and social inclusion, CHESI, and rapid care assessment. This had led to the formulation of our safeguarding team in our community, made up of men and women, traditional leaders, and church leaders to be part of a safety network that is available in our community. You see, we work with rural and remote communities. It costs some members of our community even $100 to get to the closest town. When tension happens and domestic violence arises, they don't have the luxury to come and get access to the services that are available in town. So we have to build our own safety net in our various communities. One of the tools that we have been using and has really driven a meaningful impact on the ground is innovation. Innovation is one of the tools that was heavily invested to drive our work with the women in our program. After the market is successfully established, product development is underway, capacity building and product are slowly, efficiently moving through the market channels. We then looking into the private sector for partners. This year, we signed an agreement with Tapus to carry our product and distribute the product in all of their channels. It's key important to understand our market. For us, we have identified the gift and souvenir market, the wedding market, the conference market, and corporate gifts markets. These are the channels that we will penetrate and design our product to enter. As the product has successfully entered the market, we work really closely with our partners to maintain the representation. All of the products that we produce has a story. All of the product that is out there in the market, there's a woman behind it, and we work really hard to maintain their story, to go along with the products wherever they may be. Assessing the communities and their production capacity. These are the things that we work really closely to understand the production capacity of the communities that we work with. There are low-level skills members of the communities, and we have to be innovative in coming up with product that they can produce so that they can participate in our program. And we have high skills communities. These are mostly along the coastline and in the maritime areas. They've been weaving for generations, but it is our job to train them to develop product that is market-driven. We have to accept that in Fiji, at least in a year, there'll be a cyclone or floods that is going to hit our community. We have to be innovative in ways we can support our community to get back into their disaster recovery effort. Products are being designed from salvaged storm debris and being decorated in such a way that there is a market for it. Post-Cyclone Winston, we salvaged coconuts, mangrove stumps, and being decorated, and now they are in the market space. I now call upon my fellow Fijians. It's time to embrace ourselves. We need to stop looking outside of us. We need to trust our process. We are all part of the total abundance framework. Let's embrace it. Let's show the world we all have our stories, and let's use that to lead in our work of community development. Let's show the world that this is how we do things. And let's stand together and defend it, to speak out that this is a way of life when we need it. Thank you.